Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's the Monday after a Week 12 in the NFL. We got Week 13 on tap, including the 3 Thanksgiving Day games, and we're doing our regular Monday afternoon call with SBR contributor Dave Golokhov, finding out some things that maybe we can take from Week 12 that might indicate betting value one way or another going forward in the NFL. Dave Golokhov, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, what's going on?
All right, a lot of things that maybe we could have learned from this past week. We'll see what you learned specifically. One thing maybe, did we learn that the Philly offense is actually working fine with Sanchez at the helm? They got a relatively easy cover as a double-digit favorite at home against Tennessee. So, their next game is at Dallas on Thanksgiving. Then they're at home against Seattle, at home against Dallas after that. So you think we can expect generally each week for Philly's offense to be explosive and effective?
No, not really. I mean,
No, okay.
Look, first of all, you take a look at what happened in the Tennessee game. Anybody who watched that game was a little bit nervous in the second quarter when Tennessee fought back. I mean, Tennessee self-destructed in this game. Mm-hmm. They have the worst or the second worst run defense in the NFL. I really think that's the key for the Eagles. When LaShawn McCoy can run the ball, that'll take the pressure off of Sanchez. But when he can't run the ball, Sanchez is going to do what he always does. He'll move the ball in this offense. They'll score some points. But what was it yesterday? Another 2 or 3 turnovers for this guy. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in the final score. But how can you trust the Eagles against anybody decent, knowing that Sanchez is going to do what he always does, and that's turn over the ball?
So you would not say that we should on any given day expect mid-30s from the Philly offense at least?
No, well, I mean, I do expect those types of points from them, at home when they're playing a team like Tennessee. Okay. But, even Thursday, Dallas's defense is so-so. I mean, they could get to 30, no problem. I'm concerned when they go up against the elite, the better defenses in the NFL. I guess right now we don't really know who are the better defenses in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. Detroit stunk. Arizona is weak. But for the most part, I just don't trust Sanchez. I guess that's my general observation here.
All right. Well, I kind of trust you when you're not trusting someone or some team in the NFL, and general teams that you're pretty down on tend to have been right about that. And 2 of them of note of late have been Detroit and San Francisco, and both of them you warned us about. Both of them coming off of ATS losses. Let's start out with the Lions. The Lions, 2 weeks ago, they were a supposed sharp side against Arizona, but and they have the great stats on defense. They have the names on offense, but they're just not getting it done. They're not putting up points. They're not winning games, and they're not covering. Last week didn't even come close to covering a pretty big underdog spread against the Pats. You called that one. Are you still down on the Lions going forward?
Yeah, definitely down on the Lions going forward, and I think they've got a tough stretch coming up. What I wrote about today is this team is pretty much done. I think you look at how this division has gone. Actually, I shouldn't say they're done. We'll get to that in a second. But you look at how this division has gone. Green Bay's on fire right now. They've got an easy schedule after this week against New England. And Detroit is just fading. I mean, they haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games. This is an offense that was so good last year. I hear all these stats about Matt Stafford, youngest to 50,000 passing yards. That doesn't mean shit. I mean, this offense, they was good last year. Remember, they signed Golden Tate. They spent another first-round pick, a high first-round pick on a tight end. And this unit is so incompetent. They can't run the ball worth shit. They don't even bother running the ball. If you just turn on the TV and you don't know the down and distance and you're watching Detroit, it's very likely to be 3rd and 10. This team is never, ever in 3rd and short. And by short for them, I mean 8 yards or less. It's always Stafford. He's hung out to dry. The offensive line is weak. And I think what I learned more so than anything with this team is that the defense is overrated. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how this team was, or this unit was, top in the NFL or top 3, whatever. I mean, the cornerbacks are weak. They can't get much pressure on the quarterbacks. The linebackers aren't good. You can do pretty much whatever you want on this team. I'm guessing they just played an easier schedule so far. I'm very skeptical of Detroit. I know, long answer. One thing I will point out, the reason I'm not going to say bet against Detroit in the coming weeks is because they do have an easy schedule.
Right.
Chicago, if not once or twice in the next 4 weeks, definitely Minnesota. I believe Tampa Bay as well. Very easy schedule. And I'm hoping that for fuck's sake, Matt Stafford does something, because he's in my fantasy team and he's been an absolute train wreck.
So you think they might be able to get it together on this homestand against relatively weak teams, that the offense, plays up to what people were expecting it to?
I would have loved them to score a garbage touchdown against New England just to give me some confidence Thursday night, because you got to lay 7 with Detroit right now. I mean, this is like one of those really plug your nose and pick type of games. I mean, do you really want to lay 7 with Detroit right now? On the flip side, you got Chicago. I mean, if Chicago didn't get 3 Christmas gifts from Josh McCown, 3 plays with like 3 consecutive turnovers, they probably lose that game at home to Tampa Bay. I don't know. That's a really tough game to handicap there.
All right, well then another team you've been down on for a long time is the Niners, and they are coming off of sort of a classic game for them. They were a big favorite at home against Washington. They did manage to pull out the win, but they didn't get the cover of that 9-point spread. Now they're, so you're right about them. Now they're at home against Seattle, then at Oakland, and at Seattle their next 3 games. Are you continuing to be down on them, and are you more down on the Niners than you are in Seattle right now?
Not as down on the Niners as I was before. You have to understand, NFL is a game of momentum.
Sure.
And as ugly as it has been for the 49ers, they've won, what is it now, 3 straight. New Orleans, forget who they beat last week, but Washington this week. Wins are wins, and things are coming together a little bit for this team. The defense is a little bit better. Aldon Smith has helped. The offense is still a train wreck. This is a real barometer stick type of a game for them on Thursday night, but I do lean with them here at home. Seattle's been just as shaky. Now they got to go on the road. I am down on the 49ers, but 3 straight wins breeds confidence. It breeds that mentality that we can get it done. And I think Harbaugh is the type of coach that's going to say, hey, look, won 3 in a row, could have been more. It should have been more with that game against St. Louis. Some other close calls earlier in the year. I would not be betting against this team anymore, not for the time being.
All right, and then 2 other interesting results. Cincinnati got another win on the road, and this week they've got a 3rd straight road game at Tampa Bay. I guess another winnable game. Then, they're at home against Pitt, and then on the road again against Cleveland. But a 2nd straight road win for Cincinnati. And the Giants and Dallas, Dallas didn't go in and get the huge blowout win and easy cover over the Giants as some people expected. Now they're back on a short week at home against Philly on Thursday. Do you think we learned anything from either the Cincinnati or the Dallas game?
Well, with Cincinnati, a lot of people want to focus on that offense. I'll point out the defense. To me, that's really the crux of it. This was a good defensive team last year, has not been the same without Mike Zimmer. But when that run defense is good, things work for them. They really cut off the run for the Texans, and that was it. Houston really had a tough time moving the ball. I didn't learn anything about that offense because Houston actually got into that game in the 3rd quarter after an Andy Dalton pick 6, just a mind-boggling pick 6. I forget what the score was, but the Bengals well in control of that game. Then all of a sudden the Texans get right back into it with a pick 6. Dalton is still the same bum. He's been better on the road than at home. The running game for the Bengals is the strength of that team. But really, to me, what really tells the success for this team is when they can cut off the run, and when they can't, as they have many times this year, they end up losing. Dallas to me, it's just somebody on Twitter mentioned this to me. It's a team that you want to fade down the stretch, and it's looking more and more like that. Since they lost Roma that first time, this has just been a shaky, Jason Garrett-like Dallas Cowboys team. Week to week, we don't know, can't really trust them with big numbers. On the road against a Giants team that seemed to have folded things up. They can't really, they have to win on a last-second play. So not really impressed with the Cowboys. I'd be wary of this team going forward. And we all know the Tony Romo December numbers. So be careful with this team. I'm not sold on them.
Right. I've also heard the opinion that the constitution of Dallas is a little bit different this year. It's much more run-oriented, much more based on a strong offensive line, and that's something that's not as likely to, fade down the stretch as previous, versions of Dallas were.
Yeah, I think so. But you see, Murray's not as hot as he was. I would say, I don't want to say the beginning of the year, but sort of the second wave of games. He was unstoppable. Last night, look, he played well, but it's not like they were running the ball down the Giants' throat. They really had to dig out of a hole methodically. I'm just not sold on them, I guess.
All right, so to sum up, not sold on Philly or Sanchez, not sold on Cincinnati despite the 2 road wins. Dalton probably going to give a dud. Not really sold on Dallas, not sold on the Lions, not sold on San Francisco, although not sold on them as you were previously. Is there anything you learned from NFL Week 12 that makes you think that there is a team that you'd be looking to bet on going forward?
Yeah, I was impressed with Green Bay, and I think I would be looking at Green Bay Packers futures right now to win the NFC. I really think that's a good, logical bet right now. Aaron Rodgers, best quarterback in the conference. Mike McCarthy, probably the best coach. I mean, look at who he's going up against. All those teams that we mentioned, there's doubt in a lot of those teams. Packers have an easy schedule, probably going to have home field advantage. I think now's a good time to get in, anticipate a win streak for this team. Look at that schedule and invest early. I think they're the best bet right now. That's what I learned from this. One other thing, just unrelated, that I learned is just San Diego is toast. You got to take a look at this team's schedule. Last 2 weeks, barely beat Oakland, very lucky to beat St. Louis. Anybody who saw that game, Rams on the goal line with about a minute to go, really should have scored, end up throwing a pick, and that was the difference. San Diego could have easily lost that game, but take a look at San Diego's schedule. They got Baltimore, they got Denver, they got Kansas City, they're in San Francisco. I forget who their other game is, but all of their remaining 5 games, all very difficult. I'd be surprised if they go 500. This team is not in the playoffs. Remember, this team was 5-1 at one point this year. Yeah. They're not going to the playoffs. They're done.
So you think that going forward, San Diego probably is under 500 against the spread in their remaining games?
Yeah, I do think they will be. Just a really tough schedule at Baltimore. Kansas City is a good team. Denver's a good team. San Francisco. I'm racking my brain trying to remember that 15 that they played. But everybody that they're facing down the stretch is in playoff position or well above 500. I can't trust this Chargers team right now. I mean, if you bet them yesterday and you watched that game, or if you've watched them recently, we all heard Antonio Gates make that sort of slip of the tongue where he said Phillip Rivers has a rib injury. I believe it. This is a guy that started his first 7 games with 15 touchdowns and 2 picks. Over his last 6, he's got 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not a team that plays great defense, can't really run the ball. I'd be betting against them.
All right, Dave Golokhov, adding another team to the list that he's down on, San Diego Chargers, expecting poor ATS results from San Diego going forward. All right, awesome call. Once again, Dave Golokhov. Talk to you again next week.
The SBR Network offers free sports picks and game breakdowns, big money free betting contests year-round, a real-time Vegas-style odds monitoring service, and much more. So come see for yourself. To stay updated on SBR news and promotions, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and do be sure to subscribe to the Sportsbook Review YouTube channel to catch all our daily sports shows.